Welcome to our Friday Live interview during our 29 Days of Heart campaign. I'm Selena Gore, CEO of WomenHeart. WomenHeart is a national patient-centered organization that provides support, education, and advocacy to women living with or at risk of heart disease. As most of you know, February is Heart Month, and it's also Black History Month. And at WomenHeart, that means that we celebrate those together with our annual 29 Days of Heart campaign. This seeks to uplift the voices of Black women with heart disease. It also shines a spotlight on the health disparities that exist for Black women, and it provides empowering and motivating information about how to take control of your heart health. This brings me to our guest today, Kynata Cope. She's a WomenHeart champion, a woman who has not only experienced heart disease, but then took steps to become a trained volunteer with WomenHeart as a community educator. Kynata, we are excited to have you here today. You are joining us from Clio, Georgia, and I know that people want to hear your heart story. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you are?
Okay, thank you. I'm Kynata Cope. I am from Clio, Georgia. I have 3 kids. My oldest is 8, well 9, Harmony. My middle child is Melody. She's 4, and then my son, which is my heart baby. I call him my heart baby. He's 2, and his name is RJ. And so right now I'm from Clio, but I'm located in Rankin.
Got it. Great. Um, Now, why don't you share with us your heart story?
Okay, so back in 2019, I had my son in July. Um, and then when we went home, I noticed like I couldn't sleep. I couldn't lay down flat or anything. So I had to use pillows to prop me up. And then I was breastfeeding at the time. So that took even more energy from me, but I didn't realize it. I was real fatigued, couldn't breathe. Every time I drank something, it felt like I was drowning pretty much. So I had my cousin, she came and stayed with me for a little bit. And each night when I could not sleep, she was like, we need to go to the hospital. I literally could not breathe at all. So we went to the hospital the first time. They just said I had bad acid reflux. So I took the medication that they gave me. I couldn't keep the medication down. I still couldn't sleep. The second time I went back to the hospital, they said I had pneumonia in my lungs. Um, and then they sent me home. Then the last day I was at my dad's house and I was holding my son, and me, my cousin, and my mom, we was walking out to my car and I almost fell over. Um, my cousin had to get my son before I fell. And my mom was like, I'm gonna take you to the hospital, and this time we're not leaving until they checked everything.
Yeah.
So I went back. I literally could not breathe at all, sitting in an emergency room. I was holding my chest. I could not breathe. And they finally called me back and they ran all types of tests, did everything pretty much. And then I normally when you have liquid fluids built up,
Yeah.
you swell, but I'm very rare. I don't swell at all.
Wow.
So they didn't know, like didn't swell in my ankles, my stomach, like nowhere. And the doctor said I had a bunch of fluid, so they immediately gave me medication. And then he came back and said that I had congestive heart failure. Um, and me thinking that was a whole bunch of information at one time. So I was like, I thought that was normally like, and not saying like older people, I didn't know, like, because I didn't know at that time that you can develop that. And then they diagnosed me with postpartum cardiomyopathy. Um, and I stayed in the hospital for 6 days. Um,
Wow.
I had to get up and move around, which I do have a very supportive family and friends. that did help me out and even help me with my kids
Yeah.
at the time. And they wanted me to, the doctor that I had, he wanted me to leave. My heart was pumping less than 20%. Um, and he was like, "Oh, I need to wear a defibrillator," but it's a process that the insurance have to go through in order to get the defibrillator,
Mhm.
life vest. And he wanted me to leave and then have the Zoe Life Vest people come out and then give it to me. But my mom, she was like, no, she stayed with me the whole time. She was like, no, we're not leaving without that vest because anything can happen. And since my heart was pumping less than 20%, she was like, no. And I was like, no, because your heart is a big deal.
Absolutely.
And I had some really great nurses each time. So they was like, they always rooting. They was like, no, don't leave until you get that vest. And the next day they came, I was able to get my vest. And then I went home. I had to get my daughter, she was 8 at the time, but I had to get her a cell phone because it was just us in the house. And just in case like I was to pass out while I took the defibrillator off, because in order to wear the life vest, you have to take it off when you take a shower. Your shower has to limit 10 to 15 minutes. If not, the vest will go off.
Oh, wow.
Um, so I pretty much had to train my oldest daughter, and she had 2 younger siblings. Like, if I have it on and it goes off, to take your brother and sister in the room and call 911 because they can't touch me because they can get shocked.
Yeah.
So that was very real life-changing moment, to teach her that at such a young age.
Yeah.
And then with me going through it, I still do have great support system and support family. So
Amazing. This story is just so incredible, and yet it's not entirely surprising, which is a sad thing to say. And we know that there is a strong connection between heart health and maternal health, which obviously your story really points out. And when it comes to peripartum cardiomyopathy, actually African American women are at higher risk compared to women in other racial and ethnic groups. So for those listening, I want to share the symptoms of what we call PPCM, or peripartum cardiomyopathy, which can occur towards the end of pregnancy and in the first couple of months after delivery. They include, as Kynata shared with us, shortness of breath, extreme fatigue, and swelling in the legs, which interestingly you didn't have, Kynata. So that's an important thing that it might happen, but it doesn't always happen, certainly in your case. And it's also important, I think, for women to recognize that those systems, it's important that you recognize those symptoms so that you seek care immediately. And you do, the earlier you do, obviously the better the outcomes. But also equally important is that you advocate for yourself. And not only, it sounds like, Kynata, you advocate for yourself, but your mother advocated for you, your nurses advocated for you. So you had this whole team behind you, really. But because you mentioned that women aren't always listened to or taken seriously, which again sounds like your experience, when they show up with symptoms, I think this advocating for yourself is so important. We talk all the time about women receiving missed or delayed diagnosis. And often that translates into really a lot worse outcomes. So anyway, I'm just so glad that you got the care that you needed in time. And it sounds like it in part due to this big team of folks behind you who were advocating for you. So can you tell us what has happened since your diagnosis and sort of how you're doing today in general?
Okay, so since my diagnosis, I was taking like high dosage of medication, but it's been cut down. I had to change my eating habits, especially like with seasoning food. I had to change. I still try to change it, but if I don't, like, I don't eat as much salt, because then I was diagnosed with high blood pressure also. So I don't eat a whole bunch of salt. I do limit what I intake, and then I drink plenty of water. Um, So, and my kids, they don't like it when I don't use a bunch of season in the food, but they all right. They'll be fine.
That'll be fine.
Yes. But even my mom, like she helped my with me changing my eating habits.
Oh,
That's like because I love tomatoes and I didn't realize tomato has a bunch of acid in it. So I had to cut back on eating a bunch of tomatoes. So I just
yeah.
now just look at and limit what I eat. I don't exercise like I used to. I do try and well, I got 3 little ones, so I have to run around
I was gonna say,
after
they keep
them.
you busy, I'm
But I would say to definitely, if you get in the habit to exercise more, that's my goal this year is to exercise more. Um, Pretty much still my daughter, since she's the oldest, she still come and ask me, even if I like lay down or if I'm tired, I lay down or something. She be like, "Mom, are you okay?" Like she really checks up on me. So I love her for that. So it's the sweetest.
that's so sweet.
And then my friends, they done got in the habit too. If I don't answer the phone within when they text me or call me, if I don't answer the phone within like 10 to 15 minutes, they will keep calling back to back to make sure I'm okay. So it's just like a habit, but I still try to stay on top of everything, pretty much, and take my medication daily how it's supposed to. Pretty much doing everything that I need to. I can thank nobody but God because he pretty much got me through it. I prayed and he got me through it. So, and I'm back in the 50%. So I'm happy, so happy and proud about that. But
Great.
that I'm just, still each day is different. I'm taking it step by step
Yeah.
every day. And then I try to educate. I just had an event at my church on Women's Heart and slash because I'm over the youth program
Wow.
at Hutchinson Long Street Baptist Church. So I did Women's Heart and Black History Month with our kids, and I did educate our members on Women's Heart and like what symptoms and signs to look for. And anybody that I know is pregnant because stress is a silent killer. I didn't realize I was stressing so much. During my pregnancy, I kept saying, "Oh, I'm fine." And the doctor did that was one of the things he asked me about. He was like, "Who was you stressing over?" And I'm like, "Huh?" But um but now that if I find anybody that is pregnant or I just try to reach out to them, just especially if it's like a close friend or something, just like make sure they're not stressing, make sure they trying to eat right, do better because you can develop it a couple months after your pregnancy or
That's
during
right.
your pregnancy. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's just my thing. I'm just trying to educate everybody on it because I didn't know about it until I went through it. And at first I was a little ashamed because I was like, how did this happen?
Yeah.
But then I posted it. I was in like my family members encouraged me to post it, so I posted my story with my life vest on social media. I posted on Facebook, and like I didn't realize how many people I would impact because I got like everybody was like inboxing me and sending me messages. So I was like, oh, okay. So then when Women's Heart of Hinesville reached out to me, I was like, oh, okay, yeah. And I honestly didn't realize it was like heart like was a big thing until I got involved and started doing the classes online. Well, we did the virtual
Yeah.
classes online. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So now that just pushed me more to like educate people on it. So
It is incredible how you telling your story will save lives. That's sort of the bottom line. And so I'm just so
yeah.
grateful that you've been doing that. Um, given the experience and where you are today, do you have any other advice that you might give for those women who are, thinking about what they need to take care of in terms of their heart health? What do they need to be aware of in terms of their risks? You mentioned pregnancy, which is a risk factor for
Yeah.
women, right, in their heart health. But is there any other advice that you might share specifically for women who are wanting to take better care of their heart?
Really, I would say just try to exercise, eat right, especially if you're pregnant or, even early stage of pregnancy, just not towards the end of pregnancy. To if you feel shortness of breath or real fatigue, and not saying all doctors, but sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you're just pregnant," and thinking it's just a baby. I would say just ask them if you nobody knows your body like you do. So if you feel like
Absolutely.
you cannot breathe, or your shortness of breath, just ask them. It doesn't hurt to ask them to take a look or do an X-ray or ultrasound of your heart to make sure everything is intact. But I definitely would say just ask.
Yeah.
That I'm so glad my mom was with me when I was into the hospital, because she was like, "We're not leaving until we know what's going on." So I would say stick to your grounds. Do not leave. Make sure they do every test possible,
Yeah.
to make sure everything is okay. So that's what I would tell people that's pregnant or even not pregnant,
Yeah.
to, because even after your pregnancy, you have up until 5 years to still develop this condition after your first child, or
Mhm.
any child. You have up to 5 years, especially if you have preeclampsia during your pregnancy.
Yeah.
Which I didn't have preeclampsia, but I knew someone that did and then developed that. And then plus I did my own research because it was real interesting once I found out about it. So yeah, if you have preeclampsia, you have up to 5 years to develop any type of heart condition. So just try to eat healthy. Or even if you don't just eat healthy, just watch what you intake.
Yeah.
Salt, sugar, just watch your intake. Make sure you're drinking water. And if you're definitely swelling, that's like I don't swell, but I had to get on the scale every day. I knew if I weighed the same every day, I was okay. If I immediately wore like 5 pounds or 10 pounds more, I knew that I was retaining fluid.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would definitely say get checked out.
For our listeners, Kenyatta mentioned preeclampsia, and preeclampsia is basically high blood pressure that
Mhm.
starts during pregnancy. That is an important. I think that I've heard from a lot of women who have heart disease now that they weren't told that, just as you said, Kenyatta, that if you have preeclampsia, that increases your risk for developing heart disease later on down the line. And so
Mhm.
that's just a really important thing to watch once you've had your child, that if you've had that diagnosis of preeclampsia, that you need to watch yourself sort of even closer as you go along. um,
Mhm.
I mentioned in your introduction, Kenyatta, that you're a Women Heart Champion, and
Yes.
that means that you're not just a volunteer, but one who's gone through pretty heavy duty training
Yes.
by cardiologists and other faculty from the Mayo Clinic to learn how to provide peer support,
Mhm.
communication, and importantly, as we've shared, to tell your heart story. And through your engagement, I know that you've met other women with heart disease and other champions. So, what has your journey so far as a Women Heart Champion meant to you and to the community of heart sisters that now you are a part of?
Is the constant reach out, the different activities that women's on our app that we post, and if we want to volunteer, we just click on it. Like my women's heart champion, Miss Janice. If I just call her and just need to talk to her, she's right there. Or if I email Miss Amy, she just like right on it. So it's that constant support and talking, being able to reach out and getting a response, and just meeting different people with the same story or similar stories, or just getting to know different people and everyone. Um, but I enjoy and still love my journey of being a women's heart champion. Because it's it seems like every day or every other day is like a different email, like something different is happening, and I just be looking. I'm like, okay, it just gives me something to look forward to.
We keep
Like,
you busy, Kenyatta. We keep you busy. But I really want to thank you for taking the time out today to have a chat with me. We invite everyone who's been listening to learn more and to take action. Come back next week at the same time on Friday. This is our Friday live during our 29 Days of Heart campaign. You can visit womenheart.org /29 Days of Heart to learn more about the campaign. And then, spend some time on the website, because we've got so much information there about heart disease and pregnancy, as well as more generally heart disease in women. And these resources can be helpful, not, as Kynata rightly said, not just for you, but perhaps your friends, your family who are in the early stages of pregnancy, or are in the middle of pregnancy. And it's what's really important to say too here is that heart disease is the biggest challenge for pregnant women.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about what can affect a woman's health during their pregnancy journey. The majority of the challenge is around their heart. So I encourage all of you to go to the website, to encourage your friends to watch Kynata's story, and others like her who will be interviewing for the rest of the Fridays of February. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. And thank you, Kynata, for telling your story.
You're welcome. Thank you.